Hey, what's poppin', guys? Sizzle here, and welcome to the grand finale of the series of tier lists, where I look at weapon skins in CS to try and find the best skin for each weapon. And for the final episode of the whole series, we're looking at the ARP, which has some absolute monsters out there. Starting with the stock. Stock ARP looks phenomenal. The green base and green scope with a just nice black barrel look absolutely insane. It is hands down one of the best stocks in the game, probably the best that I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's one or two stock weapons that place above it. That being said, stock op is really hard to go wrong with. It is a very solid, I'd say probably C tier. Yeah, just an amazing stock weapon. Then next up, we have the ARP Safari Mesh. Pretty classic skin. With instead of a green scope, has a black scope, and then has the classic Safari Mesh body. It looks like kind of okay, but honestly, I prefer the look of stock to it. I'd say it's probably a high D tier. It's still definitely like a pretty solid skin, but it just does not compare to stock, and especially a lot of the other amazing ARP skins in the game. Speaking of which, we have the ARP Sun in Leo, which is an absolutely phenomenal ARP skin. Has a really nice, like, cool design, just nice colors of blue on the body, and just a nice black stock finish on the top. Generally a really nice looking skin. I think this one's pattern based or something as well, because I think mine looks a little bit different. Maybe I'm wrong with that. But I absolutely love the Sun Leo. I think it's really nice looking. And honestly, probably either right above or below stock, depending on who you ask. And for me, it's marginally above stock. Very marginally, though, because it does not have a colored scope, which the stock does have. Then we have the ARP Snake Camo, infamous trade-up skin, and I'm glad it is. This is just a worse Safari Mesh. It's like if you took a Safari Mesh and got rid of the part that made a Safari Mesh and replaced it with this weird, like, embryo thing, which just looks absolutely awful. I'm glad this is like just a trade-up skin for the Desert Eagle, because it's one of the worst skins in the game, and definitely one of the worst op skins for sure in F tier. I would never use this thing. There's just infinitely better skins out. Then we have the OpAcron, which pretty solid red, white, and blue coloring of like the toxic waste, not the toxic waste, the toxic like graveyard camo. It looks okay. It's nothing too fancy, nothing too bad. Got nice colors and a decent design. I'd say it's probably a low C tier. I don't want to give it too much credit. Then we have ourselves the OpCapillary, which is one of the first op skins that we're looking at that has a custom barrel and scope, which that's pretty notable. But otherwise, I mean, the actual design, the main part of the skin is just like alright. It's a nice color of like grayish turquoise with a just iffy barrel. I mean, it all fits together very well, but this skin on the whole is just not that impressive, even if it is all like custom. I'd say it actually looks a bit worse than stock personally, even though it does definitely look pretty solid. The stock op looks fucking amazing, so it's got some pretty steep competition there. Then next up we have the Armpit Viper. I remember I used this one for ages, and I could not tell you why. This is just like a slightly inferior version of stock. It doesn't have the color scope, and the body is less clean, but it has like this green scaly texture instead. Yeah, I'd say it's probably just a decent B tier, probably definitely under the Safari Mesh, personally. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna put it, right in D tier. Then we have ourselves the ARP Pink DD-Pat, which I personally think does not look all that great. Now, it is predominantly black. Even with the DD-Pat, you can see like the barrel color kind of matches the main body color, and there's just a bunch of pink kind of crawling through it. It doesn't look completely awful, but I personally think it does not look that great. And if you want a pink op, you can see on screen, there's definitely some better options. I'd say it's probably low D tier. I don't like the DD-Pat camo generally, and this is not an exception to that rule. Then we have the Pop Op, which I think this one's slightly pattern based, and you get some kind of cool spelling and stuff if you get the right camo. But without that, I mean, it's just super random, super jank, iffy colors at best, and with a pretty iffy pattern. I think you can get say some different stuff, and when you get that, maybe it's a bit better, but without that, I mean, it's just kind of what it. I think you're better off with the Acron or whatever it's called. It's just a better thing with like similar colors. I'd say this one's probably a super absurdly low D tier, if even. It honestly could belong in D tier, depending on pass. Then there's a pretty infamously hated one, the ARP Worm God, which, I don't know. I mean, you got that skull kind of coming out with like the vines. There's a skull on the other side, not on the back side for some reason. Coming out with the vines across the main thing up until you get to this nice white part in the front. I mean, it's not phenomenal or anything, and stock definitely looks better, but I mean, it's not, I don't know, I guess it is kind of F tier. There's really just better options. If you, any part that you like with the Worm God is done better by another op skin, so for that reason, it's kind of just an F tier pick. Then we have the op Phobos, pretty commonly used like cheap op skin because it does change the entire thing. Makes it like a more high-tech, like modernized looking op, changes the scope and the body. It doesn't actually really change the barrel except the front here and I guess these two random green lines that I don't think were there before. But yeah, on the whole, I still think stock looks better, even if this looks like pretty different and distinct, at least. That does have that yellow like warning tape, whatever, but the stock op, and honestly I said a capillary too, just look a bit better. Then we have the AWP, which I believe I'm currently using, the ARP Palm, which is a pattern-based one where you can have all these different like cats and dogs, just completely randomized. The placement of this golden cat is generally what dictates any special pricing. And you can see this one has two of them. It's got one there and then one in the front here. Yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff going on here. You can see like the dog laughing, there's like a cat with coffee, there's like the love cat, there's the lucky cat, there's like a skier guy. I know there's one cat that like throws a grenade, but I don't know if you can really see it here. There's like a question mark cat as well. It's a lot of like unique little guys coming together to make some pretty unique skins, but nothing too crazy, honestly. I personally like this one a lot, but I can reasonably say that it's honestly nothing too crazy, and I also think I undervalued the capillary earlier. I'm gonna put that in B tier because it is a completely custom op, and that is pretty cool. Anyway, back to the next skin, which in our case is the ARP Etheris, and I always think of this one as the budget Medusa. Honestly, it looks better than Medusa in my opinion. Got a phenomenal redesign on the scope, this really cool snake like HD design crawling across your skin, and just a generally nice black like backdrop that kind of finish it together. The scope looks dope, the design looks dope on the body, and even this like green tint on the front looks absolutely amazing. I think it's a really solid slept on op skin. I'm gonna say it's probably a high B tier, probably the best thing we've seen so far. Then we have the most common cheap op skin, which is the ARB Exoskeleton, and I think you can kind of see why. It has this really cool, like, skull in the middle that's very central, very noticeable, a bunch of just random designs and stuff in the back that you never see, and then it even has like a custom, barrel and scope. The barrel is just custom, I mean it's not like anything fancy, but it does fit the skin a lot better than stock. And then the scope is super dope as well. You have like these two like faces here, which I think most people don't actually care about. The thing you do notice though are these like little skull stick things here. Super noticeable in game. And this skin generally, this looks completely different from stock. Looks really cool in a lot of lighting. You can see it even looks a little bit different in some lighting. But yeah, it's just a really nice custom op, just really nice skin. Really hard to go wrong with. I think for that reason, it's definitely a solid B tier pick. Next up, we have ourselves the ARP Silk Tiger, which I believe is a commonly used trade-up ARP skin, and it looks pretty fucking awful. The cam on the back is almost undecipherable with all these random tigers just kind of looking randomly and like only half or like partially visible. The blue backdrop isn't even particularly good either with the stock scope and barrel. It's just a kind of a big mess. I would never use this as an actual play skin. I think it looks pretty awful. I'm going to put it in F tier. Next up, we have the ARP Boom. Pretty infamous ARP skin. Common craft with Bish Bash Bosh, and you can get a lot of different like kind of cartoon effects like crack. Like the main one most people try to get is like a boom, or just boo, like right like somewhere in the middle of the body. Yeah, it's got a nice orange body with a general black top, and orange and black are pretty decent combo as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that you can get some pretty interesting patterns and stuff makes it just a little bit better. However, I don't really think it's all that. I mean, this is chalked up to be one of the best AWP skins of like all time, but I'm gonna say it's honestly a high C tier. I like the stuff in B tier a lot better. Completely like custom made AWP with custom scope and barrel and all that look way better in my opinion. Then we have the ARB Graphite. This one, it's an interesting take, and you know, because all the AWP skins pretty much use this black scope instead of what the stock AWP uses, which is like a green one. This one made a body to match that has some pretty cool lighting effects. I think this is probably the best body to match the stock scope and barrel, and it looks absolutely phenomenal for that exact reason. And I think it's honestly well deserving of like a higher B tier placement. Then we have ourselves the ARP Electric Hive, a bunch of hexagons with different colors between pink, purple, blue, and orange. The main things you get are blue and orange though, and this one's very pattern dependent, and depending on the pattern you can have like full blue or full orange. When it's all one color, I think it looks a lot cooler, but it still is nothing extremely fancy. I'd say it's probably a low B tier. I do really like the blue and orange, just single variants though, and that's why it's this high. But yeah, that's the Electric Hive for you. Then we have the ARP Redline. Common use skin for the AK is the Redline because it's super clean. I think the ARP Redline kind of fails to deliver on that front. The scope has like this cool red slash on it, but the body, it's like carbon fiber texture, whatever, it looks absolutely fucking awful and does not fit the top whatsoever. I think there's just better skins if you want what the ARP Redline has to offer. I think it's realistically an F tier for that exact reason. Then we have ourselves the ARP Cordocera, which, yeah, I mean, it exists. It's a skin. It's got a body. It's got a pattern on it. It has some colors. None of it's all particularly all that great. Now, it's not like awful, like most of the stuff, or just like inferior, like the stuff in F tier, but it's just not good. I'm gonna say it's like a low D tier, probably above the pop-up though. Probably even the pink and the Pit Viper. Definitely below the Safari Mesh. Yeah, it's a D tier for sure. It just doesn't have a lock. It's alright. Then we have the Alp Elite build, which just, yeah, custom scope, custom barrel, but just a general, like, common finish. It's a very, like, okay-ish looking skin with a decent finish to it, and it's very custom, very different, but also very just standard. And for that, I think it's just a high C tier. I don't think it belongs with the custom, like, cool stuff in B tier. It's just a really solid skin in C tier. Then we have the ARB Fever Dream, which just looks really dope. Got a lot of cool, like, designs. It's a generally black ARB with a bunch of, like, really cool designs, like this, you know, Fever Dream, Nightmare Fuel material in the back. Wolves are at my door. Lamau dead, haha. Like, there's a bunch of random designs and decent colors to the whole thing. It looks pretty solid, but nothing insane. I'd say it's probably high C tier. Then we have ourselves the ARP Mortis, which, yeah, you got this cool ass like Reaper, you know, death looking guy in the back. You have the Roman numeral 8 for some reason, which I think is referencing Mortis in some way. And this cool like dinosaur fossil thing in the center point with a very nice, you know, like circle almost around him to draw your attention to it. Got a nice custom scope and an interesting just stock barrel that somehow kind of fits with the design. And then you got some stuff in the front. I mean, it's a pretty decent design, pretty decent pattern. The custom scope is dope, the guy in the back is dope, the thing in the middle is dope. It's overall really solid skin, but nothing too crazy to the point that I think it's a lower end B tier. And because there's not too many AWPs left, I'm gonna move up the which I don't forget what this is already called, but I think this thing belongs probably in A tier. It's a really nice looking skin, to be honest. I think it's high key slept on. But then we have ourselves the ARB Dragon lore, because I'm not covering the Revolution case, because this will be the only video. This will be like one of 2 videos with the Revolution case if I included it. So I'll have a separate video for that. But yeah, we have the ARB Dragon lore, one of the most infamous skins in all of CS, which is, you know, understandable. It's got a really nice, clean, goldish yellow body with a beautiful, you know, dragon coming out here, spewing at this absolutely gorgeous flame. And then you have a really nice, just checkered green scope, and a checkered green barrel, and a checkered screen back. It just goes together so well, so iconic, and it's so clean. I think it's definitely just an S tier skin. I think a lot of CS skins are very overrated, and I'm more than willing to call out skins that are, in my opinion, a bit overrated. But the Dragonmore just kind of holds its own. It's a phenomenal design. It works together so well. Such great colors, such great design. It's just amazing. Then we have ourselves the ARP Medusa, and this is just a worse version of that other skin that I was talking about earlier. That's an A tier currently. I mean, you got like the Medusa design in the back that you never see. All you ever see is like this dark blue center with like a few snake tentacle things coming out. You never really see this back part unless you're like reloading or have like a really weird view model. And even if you do, I mean, it's just alright at best. I'd say, honestly, it's probably below the Sun and Leo, just in the middle of C tier. Probably still above stock, but that's about all I can give it credit. It's just super pricey because it's super rare. Then we have the Op Gungnir. And this one, on the other hand, is pricey because it's both rare and good looking. It's got a beautiful looking scope with some nice designs on it. You have like a nice custom barrel to kind of fit with the skin, and then this absolutely astounding, body to go with it. It looks generally absurdly great, but nothing. It's not S tier material, I don't think. I do think it's definitely well deserving of A tier placement. It's a very, very nice skin. And then, speaking of very, very nice skin, we have the AWP Prince. Now, this one, on the other hand, is phenomenal. It's just like a royal AWP. Have a very nice like royal center. The scope is like super custom and kind of reminds me of like a roulette aesthetic, which kind of reminds you of royalty to some degree. The R here for royalty, I guess. Very nice looking scope, very nice looking barrel. The whole thing just comes together so well and is so elegant in the way it looks. It's just great. I don't know. There's something about the Prince that's just absolutely phenomenal. Definitely S tier material. It is great. Then we have ourselves the Op Fade. This one just kind of looks like shit, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you guys have watched all or just most of my other skin tier list videos, but you'll see a lot of anodized navy skins, and this is like the anodized navy for the Op. It really just does not look good. Like, I actually like stock more than this. It just has like a basic color change on the bottom that isn't even clean. It doesn't look particularly good in any lighting, and I don't know, it's just alright at best. I guess with better fade, like with more yellow on the stuff or whatever, it probably looks a bit better, but honestly, I can't realistically put this above stock, so I'm gonna put it below stock in C tier. Then we have ourselves the AWP Desert Hydra. This one's pretty infamous because you can, instead of this white scope, you can have a black scope if you have a bad enough condition, which is a pretty rare mechanic, and there's not too many black scopes out there in the world. Or it's the other way around, I always forget which is which. Anyway, it's got a bunch of snakes with these like nice light blue tongues kind of coming through the main part. It's like the Hydra, it's like a bunch of snakes. A nice like reddish backdrop, and there's this beautiful design on the white scope and barrel, which looks even better when it's black, and a lot more unique when it's black as well, so it's like a win-win. But yeah, it's just looks great. I mean, it's a very, very clean barrel and scope, pretty decent design on the main part of this gun, and yeah, it's just a great looking skin. I'd say well deserving of probably a high A tier, but not on the same level as the Prince and Dragonmore. We have ourselves the AWP Lightning Strike. This one's very old, very OG. I mean, Arms Deal I think is literally the first collection, and it's from that. But I mean, honestly, it doesn't really do much. I mean, when you shine along it, the lightning kind of shines, which is kind of a cool effect, I guess. And it does have a purple body, which is kind of cool, I guess. That's literally it. Otherwise, it's that stock default black that every other AWP has. But I do say I think the OG-ness and kind of the that cool lightning design is enough to put it as a low B tier, but I don't think it goes anywhere beyond that reasonably. Then we have my personal favorite skin in like all of CS, the ARP Asthma. I do need to get myself one of these. It's absurdly clean. This one's like a random field tested one. I think they get brighter when they get better condition, if I'm not mistaken. Or just maybe the lighting's kind of off on the back side and it looks more, because it looks actually brighter on the front side, but there's all these stickers here for some reason. But this skin is just phenomenal, absurdly clean looking. I don't understand why this looks as clean as it does, but it just looks so clean. It's also super iconic. I mean, this was the AWP most, like a lot of pros, like, for me, the big one's Kenny S. I always remember this one clip on Inferno. He got like a 4K with the AWP. He was using the Asthma at the time, and that has kind of stuck in my head. It's what got me into CS, what got me excited about CS. It's what made me get so addicted to CSGO, is watching that one Kenny S clip. And for me, this will always represent that, and it also just looks like such a clean and good skin at the same time. Hands down, like one of my favorite skins in the whole game, and by far my favorite AWP skin in all of CS. It's gonna be pretty hard to top. Great colors, great pattern, great cleanliness. It just looks fucking amazing. Then we have the Artmanower, which, you know, going from that to this is kind of sad. This is literally the anodized navy, but with some random gold particles just there. I just would never use this thing, honestly. I don't know what the hell you do with a Manowar. Put in F tier. Then we have the ARP Hyperbeast. It's a very solid skin. I love Hyperbeast generally, and this one's no exception. You have the big fucking beast coming off the back here, even like a second beast included. And it's kind of like, you know, lashing out at something else out here. It's got a nice custom scope with a little red band there, and even a custom color on the barrel, it looks like, to kind of, you know, make the skin flow together a bit more. It's just really solid looking, really hard to go wrong with, but nothing too insane, especially for a Hyper Beast. So I'd say it's probably high B tier. Then we have ourselves the ARP Onitaji, which, yeah, it looks really dope. You have this really cool design on the scope. It looks absolutely amazing. The same design also applies to the barrel, looks pretty good. You have this cool-ass samurai that you'll be seeing. And whenever you're, like, reloading and stuff, like, you know, see the samurai with the sword. Whenever you're reloading and stuff, you see this, like, classic, like, Japanese devil or whatever. It's just an absolutely beautiful pattern on the bottom. Amazing, amazing scope. That is the main selling point of this skin for me, is the scope and barrel are probably the best scope and barrel, besides maybe the cleanliness of the Asthma, honestly, or maybe the Dragon more. The scope and barrel look amazing on here, and the main design at the bottom looks phenomenal as well. It's just a really great looking skin. Really, really hard to go wrong with this one. I'd say it's probably top of A tier, definitely above the Desert Hydra. Possibly even S tier, if I want to put it there. Then the AWP Neonor. You know, it's your usual Neonor shenanigans of the purple, pink, blue, black, and white, all kind of pushed together, and then there's like the girl dead center of the skin. It's got a pretty cool looking barrel, pretty solid looking scope, and then, you know, you have your main girl here, who I guess is patting this girl on the head with her robotic arm or whatever. For Neonor enthusiasts, I'm sure you guys love this skin. For me personally, I still think it looks pretty dope. I mean, the scope and barrel look pretty solid, and the main design is always okay. It's pretty hard to go wrong with. I'm gonna say this one's probably I'd say it's probably a high B tier, but I could realistically put it in low A tier without you know, changing my opinion too much. So I think that's where I'm gonna put it. Then we have the AWP Wildfire, which, yeah, very clean. Just, you know, I don't know why it's called a Wildfire, because it's, I mean, it's like, it is a wild fire beast, but the fire beast is like some bird serpent thing, kind of flowing through your weapon, and then you just have like a decent, you know, barrel and scope to kind of match the design a bit better. But it's nothing absurd. It's just all right. It's a pretty decent scan, I'd say, probably somewhere toward tier. Probably under the capillary, or maybe, no, I'll put above the capillary. I think it's above the capillary, under the exoskeleton. I think that's a realistically good placement for the Wildfire. Then we have ourselves the AWP Containment Breach, which, yeah, this one is phenomenal. Like a toxic swamp full of monsters, like this dog that's streamed out at you. Monsters here, the monster rats, some other type of monster, some other type of monster up here. Just kind of crawling across the bottom of your skin, marching forward. Super visible because of this nice toxic green backdrop. And then just a nice, you know, green and gray, just simple barrel to kind of push it, barrel and scopes to kind of, you know, mix it all together really well and make a really clean end product. I've never seen this one in game. I don't really know why. It actually looks amazing to me. Maybe because I just like that toxic green so much. But I think it's a very solid A tier contender. And our final skin is kind of a disappointment with how many good AWP skins we've seen so far. It's the AWP Chromatic Aberration. It's pretty cool. It's got that nice visual effect where when you move it, it's kind of a bit more shaky. Um, Otherwise, I mean, you have all these designs all over the place, like the 360 goggle effect, I guess. And then a main like kind of pink zebra striped center. It's pretty solid, but it's nothing insane. I'd probably say high C tier. And I think that's realistically my op tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this series. Hope you'll continue to enjoy watching all of my, videos, whatever they might be. And I hope you enjoyed looking at these skins as much as I did. Make sure to comment below if you have any opinions regarding these skins or just in general. I always love talking to you guys. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.